Hello, everybody. Today we are going to deep into os module. Full explanation of manipulating with files and directories. Before we start, please, give a like to this episode so more people can see it. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episodes. Let's go. OS access. Use the real UID and GID to test for access to path. Mode should be f_ok to test the existence of path, or it can be the inclusive or of one or more of r_ok, w_ok, and x_ok to test permissions. Return true if access is allowed, false if not. If effective IDS is true, access will perform its access checks using the effective UID GID instead of the real UID GID. Effective IDS may not be supported on your platform. You can check whether or not it is available using OS supports effective IDS. If it is unavailable, using it will raise a not implemented error. os.dir. Change the current working directory to path. This function can support specifying a file descriptor. The descriptor must refer to an open directory, not an open file. os.chmod. Change the mode of path to the numeric mode. Mode may take one of the following values, as defined in the stat module. os.getCWD. Return a string representing the current working directory. os.getCWDB. Return a byte string representing the current working directory. OSLink. Create a hard link pointing to src named dst. This function can support specifying src dirfd and or dsd dirfd to supply paths relative to directory descriptors, and not following symlink. OSSymlink. Create a symbolic link pointing to src named dst. On Windows, a symlink represents either a file or a directory, and does not morph to the target dynamically. If the target is present, the type of the symlink will be created to match. Otherwise, the symlink will be created as a directory if target is directory is true or a file symlink, the default, otherwise. On non-Windows platforms, target is directory is ignored. OSRedLink. Return a string representing the path to which the symbolic link points. The result may be either an absolute or relative path name. If it is relative, it may be converted to an absolute path name using os.path.join with os.path.dirname and result as parameters. This function can also support paths relative to directory descriptors. When trying to resolve a path that may contain links, use real path to properly handle recursion and platform differences. OSListDir. Return a list containing the names of the entries in the directory given by path. The list is in arbitrary order, and does not include the special entries dot and double dot even if they are present in the directory. Path may be a path-like object. If path is of type bytes, directly or indirectly through the PathLike interface, the file names returned will also be of type bytes. In all other circumstances, they will be of type str. This function can also support specifying a file descriptor. The file descriptor must refer to a directory. os.scandir. Return an iterator of OSError entry objects corresponding to the entries in the directory given by path. The entries are yielded in arbitrary order, and the special entries dot and double dot are not included. Using scandir instead of listdir can significantly increase the performance of code that also needs file type or file attribute information, because OSError entry objects expose this information. Attributes and methods on a OSError entry instance are as follows. Name, the entry's base file name, relative to the scandir path argument. Path, the entry's full path name. Inode, return the inode number of the entry. Isdir, return true if this entry is a directory or a symbolic link pointing to a directory, return false if the entry is or points to any other kind of file, or if it doesn't exist anymore. IsFile, return true if this entry is a file or a symbolic link pointing to a file, return false if the entry is or points to a directory or other non-file entry, or if it doesn't exist anymore. Symlink, return true if this entry is a symbolic link, even if broken, return false if the entry points to a directory or any kind of file, or if it doesn't exist anymore. Stat, return a stat result object for this entry. This method follows symbolic links by default. OSMakers. Recursive directory creation function. Like mkdir, but makes all intermediate level directories needed to contain the leaf directory. The mode parameter is passed to mkdir for creating the leaf directory. See the mkdir description for how it is interpreted. If exist OK is false, the default, a file exists error is raised if the target directory already exists. os.mkdir. Create a directory named path with numeric mode. If the directory already exists, file exists error is raised. If a parent directory in the path does not exist, file not found error is raised. Remove. Remove, delete, the file path. If path is a directory, an OSError is raised. Use rmdir to remove directories. If the file does not exist, a file not found error is raised. OSError removedirs.
Remove directories recursively. Works like rmdir except that, if the leaf directory is successfully removed, removedirs tries to successively remove every parent directory mentioned in path until an error is raised. OS rename. Rename the file or directory src to dst. This function can support specifying src dirfd and or dsd dirfd to supply paths relative to directory descriptors. If dst exists, the operation will fail with an OSError subclass in a number of cases. On Windows, if dst exists, a file exists error is always raised. The operation may fail if src and dst are on different file systems. Use shuttle move to support moves to a different file system. On Unix, if src is a file and dst is a directory or vice versa, an os.directory error or a no.directory error will be raised respectively. If both are directories and dst is empty, dst will be silently replaced. If dst is a non-empty directory, an OSError is raised. If both are files, dst will be replaced silently if the user has permission. The operation may fail on some Unix disks if src and dst are on different file system. OS renames. Recursive directory or file renaming function. Works like rename, except creation of any intermediate directories needed to make the new path name good is attempted first. OSRmdir. Remove, delete, the directory path. If the directory does not exist or is not empty, a file not found error or an OSError is raised respectively. OS.stat. Get the status of a file or a file descriptor. Perform the equivalent of a stat system call on the given path. Path may be specified as either a string or bytes, directly or indirectly through the PathLike interface, or as an open file descriptor. Return a stat result object. Main attributes of stat_results object. st_mode, file type and file mode bits, permissions. st_eno. Platform dependent, but if non-zero, uniquely identifies the file for a given value of st_dev. Typically, the inode number on Unix, the file index on Windows. st_dev, identifier of the device on which this file resides. st_link, number of hard links. st_uid, user identifier of the file owner. st_git, group identifier of the file owner. Timestamps. st_atime, time of most recent access expressed in seconds. st_mtime, time of most recent content modification expressed in seconds. st_ctime, platform dependent. The time of most recent metadata change on Unix. The time of creation on Windows, expressed in seconds.
OS truncate. Truncate the file corresponding to path, so that it is at most linked bytes in size. OS supports dirfd, a set object indicating which functions in the OS module accept an open file descriptor for their dirfd parameter. OS supports effectivids, a set object indicating whether OS access permits specifying true for its effectivids parameter on the local platform. OS supports fd, a set object indicating which functions in the OS module permit specifying their path parameter as an open file descriptor on the local platform. OS supports filenames, a set object indicating which functions in the OS module accept false for their filenames parameter on the local platform. OS unlink. Remove, delete, the file path. This function is semantically identical to remove. The unlinked name is its traditional Unix name. OS utime. Set the access and modified times of the file specified by path. Utime takes two optional parameters, times and ns. These specify the time set on path and are used as follows. If ns is specified, it must be a tuple of the form, a time ns, mtime ns, where each member is an int expressing nanoseconds. If times is not none, it must be a tuple of the form, a time, mtime, where each member is an int or float expressing seconds. If times is none and ns is unspecified, this is equivalent to specifying ns equals, a time ns, mtime ns, where both times are the current time. OS walk. Generate the file names in a directory tree by walking the tree either top down or bottom up. For each directory in the tree rooted at directory top, including top itself, it yields a 3-tuple, dirpath, dirnames, file names. Dirpath is a string, the path to the directory. Dirnames is a list of the names of the subdirectories in dirpath, including symlinks to directories, and excluding dot and double dot. Filenames is a list of the names of the non-directory files in dirpath. Note that the names in the lists contain no path components. If optional argument top-down is true or not specified, the triple for a directory is generated before the triples for any of its subdirectories. Directories are generated top-down. If top-down is false, the triple for a directory is generated after the triples for all of its subdirectories. Directories are generated bottom-up. Thank you for watching. Please, give a like for support this channel. Write comments, share with friends, and subscribe to see new series. Be safe. Bye.